Hello. I have had time to read a lot of books this year. Not as many as I would like to have read, but a lot of books. I am going to review them because that seems like the kind of thing I would like to use this channel for. Okay? Okay. In roughly chronological order, the first book I read was Burned by Sam McBride. If you care about Northern Irish politics, even the slightest bit, read this book. Read it, internalise it, and think about Northern Irish politics from then on, knowing what you knew in this book. It doesn't reflect well on literally anyone. 2. The Names Heard Long Ago by Jonathan Wilson. It is about Hungarian football, fundamentally, but it's also about Hungary as a country and Europe as a continent in the middle of the 20th century. And it's about globalisation and diaspora and how ideas spread. It's fascinating and I would recommend it, but you do have to like a lot of football in order to enjoy it. 3. Who Dares Wins by Dominic Sandbrook. This is Sandbrook's 5th book in his I don't know how long series chronicling the UK in the middle of the 20th century. I could make an entire video and often thought about making an entire video about why I don't like this book as much as his previous works, and I think it ultimately boils down to the fact that Sandbrook is on the opposite side of the UK's endless culture war to I am. He is a Middle England kind of person and sort of a soft pro-Brexit kind of person, a soft Tory kind of person, and writing from that perspective is really good in his books about the 60s and 70s because it's a perspective that was sort of ignored or marginalised, or it brings something different and new to that conversation about those eras, and I think that's what makes those books, particularly White Heat about 1964 to 1970 and the 74 to 79 book, I can't remember the name of it, but when he gets to Thatcher, I think it kind of falls down because it's so divisive and because he very explicitly tries to connect that divisive era to our current era, and I just don't think it works as well, and I don't think it's as good history. I will probably read his next one, but I will read it in a much more sceptical way. 4. Haven't You Heard by Marie Leconte. Brilliant book about how politics works and how the Palace of Westminster works and how gossip and rumours spread around and how that's kind of fundamental to how our politics works. I read this right at the start of lockdown and it's amazing. I would recommend it, but a part of me thinks that it's a world that won't really properly exist anymore with people working remotely and everything that's happened. Still, definitely recommend it. Should come out in paperback, I think. Worth picking up. 5. Zonal Marking by Michael Cox, about the development of European football tactics in the last 30 years. Interesting book if you want to know about football tactics. A little bit analytical. I enjoy his tactics writing less than I enjoy Wilson's, but useful for any football fan in your life. 6. 11 by Mark Watson, and yes, this is the first novel on the list. I want to read more of Mark Watson's books. I think this book sort of demonstrates what's good about him as a writer, how keenly observed it is. I know he has a new one out. I will probably buy it. This is a good book. I'm sure all of his books are good. 7. 1312 by James Montague. This is a book about football ultras. Not hooligans, but ultras. Different thing. And it's also a travelogue in that every chapter is about a different type of ultra culture, from Germany and Sweden to South America, to Southern Europe, to Croatia and Italy and Albania, and then ultimately to the Southeast Asia, to North America. It's a really fascinating book about how ideas spread in a globalized world, but also passionate fandom and how people choose to express that, and also a society, a sort of club, a culture that is beyond the law, in conflict with the law, and navigating that. It's a book about football, but like all my favourite books about football, it's not really about the football, it's about everything else. 8. Left Out by Patrick Maguire and Gabriel Pogrund. Haven't said that name out loud before. If you care about the Labour Party at all and the last 3 years of British politics, read this book. That's it. That's the review. 9. Lyndon B. Johnson. Portrait of a President. That's what it's called. I thought this would be a useful book to read about a morally flawed but important figure in 20th century history, a former vice president who became president, who was from the South, who passed some vital legislation and ended up being despised by his own party. Thought that might be relevant to the current day. This is actually the paperback version. It's actually a sort of synthesized, compressed version of Dallek's huge 2-volume biography of Johnson, which is 1,600 pages or something. I would recommend it if you're interested in the period, but I think for an in-depth study you'd really want either of the volumes of the actual biographies or the book that I read before this one, which made me want to buy it, which is An Unfinished Life, Dallek's biography of John F. Kennedy, which is fundamental. Really, it's an amazing book, and I recommend it to anyone who cares about American history. And 10, the book I'm currently reading, as you can tell from the bookmark, Normal People by Sally Rooney. Everyone else has read this, so I thought I might as well. Despite my bias against people who did debating at Trinity College Dublin, which is a long and complicated story I don't really want to talk about, but it really boils down to my general feeling that people who did debating at Trinity College Dublin get to decide what Irishness means, and I don't. That's it, really. This is a book by someone who did debating at Trinity College Dublin about people who do debating or debating adjacent at Trinity College Dublin. It's very good. The prose is amazing. I'm amazed that people have the talent to write like that. But, yeah. I think I'm reading it, I'm going to finish it, despite it not being the kind of book that I normally read, as you can probably tell. But I'm enjoying the fact that it's not my normal thing. And I want to get better at reading books that are not my normal kind of thing, because I think it's good to do once in a while. Also because the genres of book I normally read, which are 20th century history or football, are almost always written by dudes. And I feel like I shouldn't entirely read books written by dudes. I think that's bad. Anyway, those are the 10 books I read this year. I might fit in an 11th, but if you have recommendations of books you think I might enjoy, please put them in the comments. Yeah. Thanks for watching. DFTBA.